Hey there, this is Craig Ansell from the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. This is going to be episode 105. Pulled in 1,000 plus directions, get laser focused. Recently, I caught something moving out of the corner of my eye. It turns out it was a beautiful barred owl that had landed in one of our pine trees. That got me thinking about today's episode, more specifically about the laser focus part. Owls are known to have incredible vision, both at a distance and for close-up work such as hunting prey. Today, let's talk about things that can pull you in numerous directions and how to get a handle on them. Welcome back to the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Craig Ansell. We're rolling into episode 105, titled, Pulled in 1,000 plus directions, get laser focused. In the intro, I mentioned my recent close encounter with a barred owl that stopped by in one of our pine trees as it was getting dark outside. I'm tying this into today's show because they're known for their incredible distance vision and ability to focus up front, such as hunting prey. The owl was up in one of our trees on a branch about 10 feet off the ground. This tree was located near our street and there was some light traffic. What's all this have to do with today's show? As I approached the owl, you could see how it was scanning its surroundings, looking for its next meal, very likely. Despite the fact that I was approaching it and even taking some flash photos, and the fact that there was some vehicular traffic around, the owl still maintained its composure and its focus on dinner. Now, like the owl, we can be surrounded by numerous distractions in our lives. But to be higher performers, we have to learn how to filter out the not so important things in our lives so we can focus on those items and tasks that have a greater priority. The question is, how do we do it? Before we work on the how, the solution, I think it's important that we each need to recognize, yes, it's true. We all get pulled in directions, sometimes what seems like dozens or hundreds or even thousands of directions all at the same time. Even thinking about our daily activities, our travel to and from work. There are so many things happening, so many distractions. There's social media, there's pop-ups, there's ads, there's notifications, there are vibrations on our phone. Now we have vibrations on our earbuds, vibrations on our watches. Heck, we can take phone calls and even conference calls now from our watches. Technology's really getting crazy out there. I think it has some really great advantages, but it also doesn't help us when it's time to unplug and try to mentally relax. With that said, we can always be on. Our brains are just constantly processing information, filtering out what's valid, what's not so valid, and the stuff that's junk that we don't need to worry about. Being pulled in many directions can cause distraction. It's only natural. But what do you do, and how do you filter out the distractions that aren't so important? Well, we each need to know what is important in our daily lives, both from a personal level and from a professional level. From a personal level, we might think of ourselves, right? Look out for number one first before you look out for others, because if you're not around, how can you protect, defend your family, your friends, your surroundings? But when it comes to work, it's a little bit of a different story. You might have multiple people vying for your time. You could have multiple electronic devices interrupting you on a daily basis. Like I said earlier, we could have office phones, cell phones. I don't know if pagers are still around, and that kind of dates how old I am, but I used to have a pager actually. And if you're not familiar with what that is, I'll quickly share. Kind of smiling, you can kind of hear it in my voice. A pager was essentially a one-way communication device. It was maybe about half the size of a pack of cigarettes, and you would clip it onto your belt loop. People would dial a number on their phone, they would get a beep tone, and at that point, they would then type in the phone number that they wanted to have called back. your beeper, your pager would go off with maybe a light and a little vibration, a little sensor, and you would look down and all you would see is a numeric message displayed. Hopefully the entire phone number came across so you knew who wanted you to call them back. Sometimes, though, technology wasn't perfect. Sometimes people had typos when they entered the data on the phone, and they put the wrong number in, so you would unknowingly type in and call back the wrong number. Other times, not all the digits showed up, so you didn't get the full message. That's a segue, though. Talk about that later. So with these distractions, though, we've now got cell phones, pagers, watches that alert us, messages, headphones, earbuds, all kinds of things. How do we know what the true important tasks are versus sorting out those that can be distractions and non-value add? Well, it's difficult and it's different for each and every one of us. We need to know what is important in our daily lives when it comes to our jobs and our performance. I had mentioned in a couple prior episodes that we need to look out for what is value add to our company. And today's show is going to be similar to that in that we're going to help identify what you need to do to be laser focused, what to work on, and how to do it. So, most of us have email, and that email can be very distracting. More than likely, you're nodding, shaking your head right with me. I know that my personal email, I try to scan through on a daily basis, whether I'm at my computer or on my cell phone, but it's actually got several thousand emails in there, and I need to go and clean it up. And that can be a burden, but I'll need to take the time to do it. My professional email isn't as bad with just a couple hundred, and I know those that are a priority. Maybe I flag those with the red flag, or I click the unread button so that they stay bolded. We each have our own methods for keeping things as a priority. But what happens when you get pulled in so many directions? How do you choose to prioritize what comes first? Many times we prioritize things based on what we perceive is important and what we perceive is adding value to our role and to the company, to the boss that we work for. Sometimes, though, our perceptions, our beliefs, our thoughts can be wrong. Yes, you heard me right. We can mistakenly identify things of a greater importance than they truly are. If you've ever been through a performance review, whether it's 30, 60, 90 days after being hired, or maybe it's your 6-month or annual performance review, and you just felt like you were going to get a great review because you've done so much and worked so hard, and you've just been, coming in a little bit early, staying a little bit late, maybe taking shorter breaks or reduced lunch times just to get that work done. But then you come to find out during your review period that you're not doing all that's necessary, or that you're maybe told you're not focused. That could actually hurt, right? That could offend you. I have been told those things over my career, and I was frustrated, to be honest with you. I almost became very verbally combative. I wanted to argue with my manager about the fact of all the work that I did complete. And that's a mistake. That for me was a sign of immaturity. I needed to follow the 2 ears, 1 method. I needed to follow the 2 ears, 1 mouth method. 2 ears, listen twice as much as you speak. I also have a phrase I've coined over the years, and I repeat it through various podcast episodes, and it's called Craig's 3P rule. And they are powerfully placed pauses. That's what the rule is, powerfully placed pauses. That simply means you know when to talk and you know when to listen. The most common challenge we face when we're getting feedback is that we don't like silence, and that the minute someone speaks and they rub you the wrong way, or they trigger a memory or a thought in your head, it's very natural that we want to lock in on that like a dog on a bone and just respond back on that specific topic. The problem with that is that when we get this feedback, we don't hear the rest of the feedback, which may actually be valid and constructive to help us grow and to help us improve. Rather, we hear that one negative piece of information and we dwell on it. We can't wait for a pause in the conversation so we can respond almost defensively to prove ourselves right, prove ourselves of value. I mention this because being pulled in 1,000 directions, the title of today's show, can hurt us in our daily lives, especially in our professional lives. One thing I'll mention to you to give you an idea of how professionals in the medical field deal with things. I have some family that's in nursing and some other medical positions. And one of the filter criteria they use when they're in the trauma ward or the emergency ward is a simple green, yellow, red, just like a stoplight, right? If a patient's green, they're healthy, they don't have any, and again, this is what I recall. I am not a medical professional. I'm going off of discussions I've had in the past with medical professionals, so forgive me if this is not 100% accurate. But the point behind it is that talking about being pulled in different directions and needing to get laser focused is simply broken down into 3 color steps: green, yellow, red. Green being that the patient is in stable condition, not life-threatening, and that they'll be okay if left alone or left with minimal care at this moment. Yellow, not so. They are needing care. It may not be critical, but if they're not addressed in a certain period of time, their condition may worsen, and they would then be upgraded to a red status, which is critical. Life-saving measures need to be put in place now, perhaps surgery, perhaps oxygen or other care to prevent them from passing away. The point behind it is, as this is not a medical show, nor am I a medical person, is that simple 3 color coding, green, yellow, red, can really help us out when it comes into being pulled in different directions. You could apply it to your job starting immediately. When something comes your way, whether it's an electronic interruption from texts, cell phones, pagers, if you have one, like I jokingly talked about earlier, to emails, prioritize it, green, yellow, red. Right? Is it something critical that I have to work on now? Something that's time sensitive? Maybe that would be a red item. Or is it something that needs to be done? Let's say by the end of the day or the end of the week, could be a yellow, got to work on it, or the condition's going to get worse. Maybe there's a deadline, something of that nature, right? Some type of proposal due or some type of report. If it's green, it's not something that's urgent. So possibly just using a simple 3-step process to identify what is critical in your job role, what is urgent, and what is lesser important could help you out there. Now, I also have a really awesome free download for you, and it helps you identify what items are important in your daily life when it comes to your professional career, adding value to your job. This download is about how your employer sees things as valuable rather than how you do. So if you feel like you're getting pulled in 1,000 directions, try this simple green, yellow, red color coding process. If that helps, I would love to get your feedback on any of our social media at Craig Ansell. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Also, if you have some ways that you handle with being pulled in thousands of directions, please send us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you and learn some of your tips and tricks. But again, it's about being aware of your heavy environment, your distracting environment. It's part of our daily lives, and prioritizing what is critically important to urgent, I need to get to, but not right away, and down to things that can wait, right? How do they get filed? The 3-color process. From there, then, that allows you to look at the items that are red. That's where you put your laser focus. You try not to allow other things to distract you while you work on those things. Obviously, you would want to prioritize things that are due at the end of the day, or even in the next few hours before the end of the day, versus those things that need to be done at the end of the week, and then those things done following week or end of the month, versus other things that don't have timetables on them that maybe you're investigating or researching, and they really don't have any critical nature at this time for you to respond to. So hopefully those ideas have given you some food for thought, thinking about the old discussion I had earlier about the old owl, the wise old owl up in the tree. They have awesome ability with vision, both distant and close up, and they need that for hunting their prey. You can become that owl also by allowing the distractions to go by the wayside and focus in on what's critical using a red, yellow, green filter system. Talking about that owl, I live in a part of Central Florida that has pretty good scenery and quite a bit of a forest behind our house. We're pretty fortunate that we do get a number of owls throughout the night, as well as some hawks. This particular owl I talked about earlier was called a barred owl. The reason that I know this, I looked up the types of owls we had in Central Florida and found out its name. If you're not familiar with the barred owl, it has a call that sounds like, "Who? Who cooks for you?" So if you can just think of that frequency and that pitch, okay, sounds a little funny coming from Coach Craig, I get it. But if you can just think of that little repetitive tone, that's what the type of owl sounds like. That would be called a barred owl. Who? Who cooks for you? So it's a little way to remember that little saying with that type of owl. And they're beautiful creatures and awesome to see in flight, so large and powerful, but yet focused. Once again, I have a really great free download for you to help you out about adding value to your job. Remember, it's not about the way you see things and the way you believe that you need to add value every time. Sometimes we lose track of what's important in our positions. We might need to go back and look at our job description. We might need to talk to a peer, a supervisor, or a manager. If you do that, though, make sure you have a communication plan in place. Don't just kind of walk up and fumble through your discussions. If you've ever had one of those challenging performance reviews which ended in negative conversation, a poor compensation upgrade, or no compensation at all because you thought you were working so hard, but yet the company just didn't see it, this is really the time to take out that performance review if it is able to be accessed either online or if you hard copy printed it, and review it. Try not to be emotional about it. That's one of the flaws that we have as human beings. We become defensive frequently. Try not to be defensive and read through and look for the constructive feedback, the constructive content. If you can see there are some what I call golden nuggets in there that are helping you, guiding you to where you can perform better and provide a greater value, that's what you're looking for. And that may help you going forward in your existing role. If not, you can always reach out, like I said, to a supervisor or a manager if you have a comfortable relationship with them. But just have some talking points, even if you have to bring a small 3x5 index card or mention to them you have a few notes on your phone you'd like to reference. I'm sure they would appreciate the fact that you came prepared and had an agenda. I've been your host, Craig Ansell, from the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. Don't forget to pop over to our website, craigansell.com, grab some of our free downloads, including Adding Value to Your Job download. And also, if you've got any feedback from any of our episodes, including this one, we would absolutely love to hear your feedback and have a conversation with you on social media. That's at Craig Ansell, CraigAncel, and that's on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Love to hear your stories and any tips or tricks you have regarding getting laser focused when you feel like you're pulled in 1,000 or more directions. Have a wonderful day. God bless you. We'll talk next week. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ansell on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.